The button was pushed.
Uh-oh.
What?
Don't push the button.
What?
What?
I think we're live.
Uh-oh.
What do you mean don't push the button?
Don't
You gotta
push the
push the
button.
button. I'm like a bird, I fly away. I don't know
Aw,
where
the
home is.
babushka.
Yeah. Poor little Bubba. Poor little Bubba. So it's a Thursday. Hey guys, how are you doing this evening? See what we have here. Talk to the boys and girls, Mama.
Hello.
Hello.
Are you sure I can't run over there and check on him real quick?
Leave your microphone and go. Mama Bear has to go check on her little one, boys and girls. E.S. Taylor is on here. Good to hear you. Good to see you, Eric. Thank you for jumping on here. Hello, hello. Eric, thank you for jumping on here. Hello. Okay. That's my attempt at a sound check there. Alan Shanks is on here. Oh, he's Friday already. He's like some sort of time traveler. It's Friday in the land of Oz. Let's see. Alan, do you have any idea if mail service has been resumed to and from Australia yet? I got a package back from Australia that I tried to send, and they said that service had been suspended to Australia. I don't remember. I hope it wasn't to you. Gosh, I can't remember who it was to. Mortis005, how are you doing? Thank you so much for jumping on here tonight. Matt Spence in New Jersey is on here. Neil Morgan. Hello, Neil Morgan. Thank you for jumping on here. David Lowe is on here. Very cool. No news. One bounced back last week. Oh, I think you were the fellow that actually emailed us and gave us our first notification about it. I don't think that was... Yeah, I think you were the first person that actually mentioned it. So we are going live. Hey, everybody, this is Dave here at Pulp Alley. We got a lot of fun stuff to cover for tonight. We're going to share some news regarding the Kickstarter. We're going to answer some of your rules questions that have come up this last week and other times. Let's see, what else? The scenario of the month has been sent out, maybe. I know it's finished. The scenario of the month for October. A little bit late on it, but it's still October. Dang it. So I didn't miss October. And then also talk about some of our other projects that we have going on right now. Bessy had to run next door to check on Max. He was fussing a little bit. We have a baby monitor here in the luxurious Pulp Alley International Studios complex. So she took the tunnel to check on the babushka. Okay. Let's see. Maybe I should answer some rules questions. Can I do that? Can I do that while we're waiting? Hey, Manny Marino's on here. Thank you for jumping on here with us. Lord Grumpus is on here too. Thank you, Lord Grumpus. Welcome, welcome. So let's start off with some rules questions first, because I could do that real quick. And I guess I would just say to y'all, if you do have any rules questions, you ought to let us know. This is a great time to throw it into the chat. And if Bessy sees it, maybe we can add it to the list and try to answer your burning questions. Or if you just have questions about, romance or life in general, Bessy is here to answer any questions. Also, she has psychic powers, so she could probably answer any questions about your future welfare as well. Okay. Mark Long, 2 a.m. in the UK. Can't sleep, so this is fun. Hey, Mark Long, thank you for jumping on here with us. We appreciate it. Let's get it. Who's on here from different countries and who's on here from the U.S.? Let's see. I know we have some Australia and we have some UK. We have a Canadian on here.
We have a Southern Canadian.
A Southern is it? Do we have a Southern Canadian? Okay.
Yeah, Robert Reynolds.
Is he on here?
Right there.
How come you see his chat and I don't?
Because
there it is. Still Thursday in South Canada.
Perhaps I have my glasses on and you don't.
Kazakhstan, very good. All right. Hey, let's do some questions real quick.
Bum, bum, bum.
Now, many of these questions were asked on the Pulp Alley Players Group Facebook, and that's a wonderful resource for everybody to use. I know I like having it on there. And it is so often that even before I see a message or a question, one of our wonderful players has already answered it. So it's a great place to get any kind of questions that you may have to get answered. So I would definitely encourage folks to join up with the Pulp Alley Players Group on the Facebook, as the kids call it.
The kids don't.
The kids call it the Facebook.
And that's a problem for them because it's old people now.
Oh. Question number 1 is, are monsters immune to horror? And here we're talking about really just anything that causes horror is something that causes horror. Is it immune to the effects of horror? And no, it is not. And I guess one thing to remember about this is that the horror effects in Pulp Alley are much more Lovecraftian than just boo, you're scared of me sort of thing. It is a true psychological effect that can affect people or monsters in different ways. So let's say you had Frankenstein's monster fighting Dracula, right? Because that happens sometimes. Well, you could say that it would be kind of silly to suggest that they're going to be scared by each other. But if you remember that the horror rules are intended to represent psychological effects that can sometimes, drive you to do things which you would not normally do, then of course Frankenstein's monster could, just want to rush the nearest enemy, or he could be so angry that maybe he doesn't attack anybody that turn. So you have to think of it really within context of the story. There are actually a lot of the horror effects that would actually help those sorts of creatures. So you don't always have to think of it in a negative term. Sometimes there are some of those psychological effects that will actually drive you to greater effectiveness. And that's true of, anxiety and fear and things like that. Sometimes, it's like, it makes you even more powerful, enraged. Yeah. So short answer, no, you're not immune. Long answer was all that other blather I just gave. But if you look in the characters book, under the new abilities that are on there, there's a new ability called Touch. So if you want to make your character immune to horror, you can do that. There's an ability on there now that you can add to your character, and it makes you immune to the effects of horror. Should I continue on with my rules?
Please do.
Does anybody have any questions?
Nothing.
No? Okay. Why do I have to activate my character if I don't want to do anything?
I know.
Okay, go ahead.
Take me. Because
Bessy.
There are cards that say when an enemy activates and like banging on the table.
Normally, this question comes up because you're afraid to do something, or you don't want to activate your character because the game is going to clobber you when you do, and that's why you're trying to avoid it, right? You're in a perilous area. Well, I just won't activate in this perilous area, right? You're in a quicksand pit, right?
I'll
Or
wait.
you're in a pit of snakes, of deadly cobras. It's a perilous area. I don't want to activate, so I'll just ignore it, and it won't hurt me.
If I close my eyes, it can't hurt me.
The reason you have to activate your character is because stuff can happen to them. And that's normally what the person that's asking that question is trying to avoid. The reason you have to activate is because you have a character that is on the table. They need to activate so that they are part of the world. They are part of the game. Things can happen. Sometimes people don't want to activate because they're in contact with an enemy.
Yeah.
I don't want to activate because I know they're going to beat me up. That's not a reason not to activate. No, you don't get out of your thumping by just closing your eyes and standing there. That's not how it works. So I guess the short answer would be because your character is part of the game, and they need to be they need to activate.
And sometimes you can activate and do nothing and nothing happens. And you move on.
Absolutely.
Right.
If you don't want to do anything, you just simply say, I'm going to activate this character. You give your opponent an opportunity to do whatever they're going to do. And then you just simply go, I'm not going to do anything. Next. Right? And we have examples of that actually occurring in many of our games. Yeah.
I mean, we were all waiting for that plot point to drop.
Yep.
With a lot of
we would say, I'm going to activate this character. They're not going to do anything. And I'm going to activate this character. They're not going to do anything. And you just do that. But it doesn't mean you can hide in the sand, your head in the sand, and pretend
no contraire, sir.
Things aren't going to happen to you. So, next question is, why can't I attack a character that is down? So this question comes up frequently, like you're fighting a character and you knock them down and they're at your feet. They're at your mercy. Why can't I just go ahead and slit their throat and finish them off? Why can't I just chop off their head? I get that sometimes too. I guess the reason is, have you ever watched any MMA fights? Have you ever watched any action adventure movies ever in your life? Have you ever watched any Bruce Lee movies? So tell me how those fights go. When somebody gets knocked down, it's pretty rare. I'm not saying it never happens, but it's extremely rare that somebody just goes, when you're surrounded or you have all this other action going on all around you, why do you think knocking that person down, I've got to finish them off because I don't want them getting back up, right? That's the player's logic. But in the moment of the action within that story, it's just a goofy move, right? So if you've ever watched any MMA, fighters go down fairly frequently. And it doesn't mean that all of a sudden they are just KO'd because they fell down. Frequently, that fighter will get back up to their feet. Just like in the serials, a lot of fighters, a lot of fights, fighters go down, they get back up, they come back. I was watching a Doctor Who the other day where Doctor Who, knocks a fella out and knocks a fella out of play and then moves up towards the next guy. And of course, he stops and has to have a clever, quip with the other guy. And while he's doing that, the fella that he knocked out recovered, passed his recovery check, and came up behind Doctor Who with a rock and conked him on the back of the head, right? The reason it works that way in Pulp Alley is because that is the far more reasonable thing that would actually be happening. And it's cooler for the story too. Sometimes a player wants to, be so efficient and effective in their fighting. Well, I want to chop off everybody's head that I fight so that they can't recover.
I mean, I wouldn't chop off everybody's head.
Sure. And then I'd put them in a shopping cart and push the shopping cart around with me.
Just keep putting them in.
Sure, just keep dropping them in there.
It's called collecting.
Pushing your shopping cart around. Even if you were a headhunter. Even if you were a headhunter, you would do that after all the fighting was done. You don't need to start collecting heads while the fighting is still going on and people are still around, So the idea that when you put somebody down, the idea is that you are trying to knock them out. That's why they only have a 50-50 chance of recovering. But we can assume that you're taking actions to try and do that. There is no roll. And by the way, if you really want to be that guy, there's an ability in the game that you can take for your character that lets you attack a downed character, or at least KO the character. It's a pretty goofy ability because when you really think about it, you're wasting your action for something that you have a 50-50 chance of them going out of action anyway. So it's just
the old
silly.
Serials was very
right.
Ow!
Right.
Whoa, I
People
hit a
fall
table,
down.
and then
Right.
you move to the next guy.
And then and then sometimes those guys that went down, they got back up. That's why the game is designed that way.
Especially in the earlier episodes, because towards the end they don't.
Even when you get into like samurai movies and things like that, they don't just go around chopping everybody's heads off. A fella goes down. Sometimes those samurai get back up, or those thugs or whoever they are, they get back up and get back in the fight. Same way in Bruce Lee movies and on and on and on, The reason it works that way is because that's how it should work.
Funny how that works.
Mm-hmm. Did I mention that scenario of the month number 46 is now?
Should be in your email boxes.
Should be in your email boxes, scenario number 46. And this scenario is pretty weird. This is the scenario that involves these spawns of Nod. And if you've seen the characters book, they are in the characters book, way deep in there under the weird encounters. And what happens when you injure one of these creatures, they start out at level 4. And when you injure it, it becomes 2 level 3 creatures. And then when you injure that level 3 creature, it becomes 2 level 2 creatures, and on and on. So pretty cool scenario. You're going to have a lot of fun with it. Be a fun one to play for Halloween, I think.
Funny how that worked out.
What else do we have to say?
Funny.
Any questions?
No questions.
Anybody new I can say hi to?
Okay. No.
Nope. This question came up very recently, and it's kind of paraphrased here. How many minor plot points do I have to pass before I can do the major plot point? And that sort of thing is determined by the scenario. There is no rule that prevents you, no basic rule that prevents you from as soon as you start the game to just going over and doing the major plot point. The things that stop that from happening are written into the scenarios. So each scenario is different. Yeah. So I think if you look at Smash and Grab, the very first scenario, and really, if you're going to start playing Pulp Alley, you ought to start at scenario number 1 and at least play those first 6 or so scenarios. In that very first scenario, there is no restriction on you going after that the major plot point right off the bat. So you can head straight for it.
Definitely.
Okay. But there are scenarios where you have to complete 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 plot points before you get to the major plot point. So it's all about reading the scenario and understanding how that scenario works. So this scenario, this question says, I took 3 hits and I failed 2 of my dice. So does my health drop 2 levels? Bessy, you want to answer that one? I took 3 hits and 2 dice failed. Does my health drop 2 levels?
No.
She says no. Is that right, boys and girls? Is that right out there? Yes, Bessy is always right. Even when she's wrong.
I'm never wrong.
Remember this, that a health check can involve 1 or more dice. So if you take 3 hits That is, you are not rolling 3 health checks. You are rolling 1 health check, but you're using multiple dice. And a health check is a pass-fail situation. You either pass it or you fail it. If you pass it, your health is not affected. If you fail it, your health drops 1 level, regardless of the number of dice that were rolled, regardless of the number of hits that were taken. I hope that answers the question.
Yeah. I hope so too.
And that's cool. And I guess I would just say that I love getting these questions because it means folks are playing. So please don't hesitate to ask if you get to something and then you're not sure about it, because we love to hear these questions. And it doesn't matter, if we've answered it before, we want you to ask it so we can answer it for you as well. Oh, I think that's all. Okay. What do we have next to go over? So the big... What?
Were you going to talk about Kickstarter news?
Should I?
You were going to say the big.
The big what?
I don't know. I cut you off on accident.
It's okay. So what should we talk about?
The big Kickstarter news.
The big Kickstarter news is what, Bessy?
Characters book is at the printers.
How awesome is that? So we uploaded all the files to the printer, and it seemed to have taken an awful long time to get everything sorted out. But they finally got back to me and sent a e-proof, so a digital proof. So just a digital version of how the book will look. So I proved that, and I'm having a printed proof, just one printed and sent to us so we can examine the book and make sure there's no other changes we're going to want to make. So as soon as we get that, take us a day to kind of look it over, and then we can start printing the book. So in the meantime, that's super awesome. That's a huge milestone right there. The other cool stuff about the Kickstarter right now is that nearly everything has been bought and is on its way. So we have a lot of miniatures coming. I think it'll at this point, we believe that all the miniatures we need are either here or
in
route.
Yeah.
All of the cards we need are either here or being printed. We're waiting on the order. All of the other things, so at this point, the two things that we don't have really are the printed books for the characters book and the printed China Station book. So those are the two things that I'm hoping I can get China Station finished this week, and then we can get that uploaded and then get the print started for both of those 2 books. And then once we get that ordered, it's been a chore this time around. It's been a big battle, but we're getting there. Everything just is moving so much slower in the world these days,
including us.
Yeah, including us. Yep. Okay. Sorry, both dice. What is it? What does that mean? Mark Long. Yes, you take multiple hits, but will only lose 1 level. Yes, that is correct. Very good, Mark Long. Yep. So is that it? Is that all we had to go over tonight? We have a lot of progress on Kickstarter. I feel like we're actually hitting that point that we're trying to get some starter boxes put together. We are getting everything lined out. It's I'm going to be really excited to get this all finished and done. November is what, just a couple weeks away.
Less than that.
Less
days
away. A couple days.
Today's the 28th of October.
You didn't tell me that. I thought we still had at least a couple weeks before November got here.
I think you have selective.
The Earth calendar is really confusing. I don't get it.
Because you remembered Halloween coming up.
Oh.
But you forget that's the last day of October.
Yeah, but that's in a couple
weeks. Which is followed by November.
Hey, how are you guys hearing Bessy? Is she sounding okay this evening? Voice of an angel that she is. All right, I guess that's all I have for tonight. Really appreciate all of you folks jumping on here. Please don't forget that we're going to have a live game on Sunday, and this is a big one. This is Sorabaya Manhunt. And anybody that can sing the song Sorabaya for me, you know, you get bonus extra cookies.
Sorabaya, Sorabaya. Manhunt.
Roll credits and cue the music. Goodbye, everybody. Okay, play us out, Bessy.
Oh, I don't.
Sorabaya, Sorabaya, Sora, 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 Sora. Sorabaya, Sorabaya.